Oceanic enigmas and their age-old captivation. From the dawn of human civilization, oceans have inspired awe, reverence, and occasionally fear, realms of water, where the boundaries between myth and reality often blur. In countless religious texts and philosophical treatises, the sea symbolizes both creative and destructive power. In some traditions, it is the cradle of life and a source of rebirth. In others, it represents chaos, the unknown, and the testing ground of human endurance. Philosophers have long questioned whether the ocean's depths mirror the uncharted recesses of the human psyche, vast, mysterious, and perhaps harboring answers to existential riddles. Today, modern technology has allowed us glimpses into these fathomless expanses, yet each discovery brings new mysteries instead of final resolutions. Ancient peoples who stood on shorelines regarded the water as a barrier guarded by gods or monsters, with storms and tsunamis seen as divine or demonic retributions. Although our scientific understanding has dispelled many superstitions, we continue to grapple with enigmas, anomalies that neither the instruments of oceanography nor the bravado of explorers have fully explained. Yet the ocean also stands as a testament to humanity's collective resilience and curiosity. Time and time again, explorers have ventured into the unknown, risking life and limb in fragile vessels, determined to map every trench and chart every hidden coast. From the legendary voyages of Sinbad as narrated in Middle Eastern folklore, to the scientific expeditions of today's submersibles, these waters have demanded humility. The poet John Donne once invoked the ocean as a metaphor for the infinite nature of discovery, implying that wherever human ambition sets its sails, the horizon simply extends. Centuries later, this sentiment rings true. The deeper we explore, the more enigmas emerge. Whether through stories of monstrous sea serpents or modern accounts of strange submarine signals, oceans remind us that our planet still holds secrets capable of unsettling our desire for neat explanations. In the modern era, countless subdisciplines from marine biology to seafloor geology strive to crack the ocean's code. Geologists scrutinize tectonic activity along mid-ocean ridges, hoping to predict earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. Biologists plunge into underwater abysses, hunting for undiscovered species that might illuminate the origins of life. And climatologists parse data from underwater currents, trying to foresee climatic shifts. Yet amid these endeavors, there remain stories that border on the otherworldly ghost ships adrift, without a trace of crew, alien-like base structures captured in satellite images, ephemeral lights that hover above remote lakes, and monstrous whirlpools spinning relentlessly in narrow straits. These events capture our imagination because they occur in the depths or at the surface of seas that we perceive as mapped and measured, yet which so often defy even our best science. Over millennia, humans have woven religious and philosophical themes into these mysteries, sometimes seeing in them signs of higher powers or cosmic forces. Ocean deities from Poseidon in Greek mythology to Varuna in Hindu cosmology are often depicted as simultaneously nurturing and wrathful, reflecting the multifaceted personality of the sea itself. The question remains whether the marvels we encounter, unexplained circles on icebound lakes, underwater monoliths, rumored alien bases, are best viewed through a spiritual or purely empirical lens. In this first part of our exploration, we shall delve into several phenomena that illustrate how oceans and seas sustain the enigma of our planet. Through the prisms of history, geology, technology, and even religious allegory, we aim to see these enigmas in sharper detail. Let us begin by journeying beneath Siberia's iced-over Lake Baikal, and then traveling to a reputed extraterrestrial haven off California's coast, two locales that reveal just how startlingly varied the secrets of Earth's waters can be. Lake Baikal's ice circles and the alleged alien base off Malibu. In the heart of Siberia lies Lake Baikal, a staggering body of water reputed to be the oldest and deepest freshwater lake on Earth. For centuries, local populations, including the Buryat people, have spun tales of divine spirits residing in its depths, attributing inexplicable sightings of lights and shapes to sacred or mystical interventions. Lake Baikal's spiritual and cultural significance is immense. Some monastic traditions situated near its shores speak of the lake's waters as portals to hidden realms, bridging the earthly plane with dimensions where ancestral spirits linger. Modern science acknowledges Baikal's geological uniqueness. Its ecosystem houses thousands of endemic species. Yet despite decades of study, it harbors puzzles none more enthralling than the mysterious ice circles that appear periodically on its frozen surface. In 2009, astronauts aboard the International Space Station photographed a near-perfect circular pattern etched into Baikal's ice. This ring measured roughly 4.4 kilometers, 2.75 miles across. Curiously, from the ground it was nearly invisible. Only the aerial vantage exposed its immaculate geometry. Subsequent missions identified similar circles scattered around remote regions of the lake. Early hypotheses blamed rising methane bubbles for melting the ice from below. But investigations found no substantial methane in the ice cores. Another proposition cited warm underwater currents circulating in hidden thermal vents. Skeptics remain unconvinced, noting that no conclusive evidence links the phenomena to these currents. Adding fuel to the fire are recurring accounts of unidentified flying objects allegedly sighted above Baikal's waters, often described as glowing discs or cigar-shaped craft that descend into the lake at night. The frequency of such reports, dating back to Soviet-era archives, has led some to speculate about hidden bases beneath the lakebed. In one chilling incident from 1977, a research submersible lost power at a depth of nearly 1,220 millimeters per 4,000 ft. The crew reported a mysterious beam of light illuminating the sub from above, leaving them in speechless terror. Moving from Siberia to the sunlit shores of Southern California, another purported hub of extraterrestrial intrigue awaits the alien base off the coast of Malibu. In 2014, researcher Jimmy Church publicized satellite images from Google Earth showing a submerged dome-like structure on the seafloor a short distance from Malibu's beaches. Massive pillars seem to support a broad, flat expanse with a dark central opening reminiscent of a hidden entryway leading underground. UFO enthusiasts swiftly latched on to this as potential evidence of an alien stronghold. Journalist Robert Stanley backed these claims with alleged recordings of strange radio signals he had monitored for over a decade in that locale. Skeptics and geologists alike offered a contrasting explanation, attributing the formation to the region's continental shelf and natural erosion. They compared it to other known underwater rock formations around the globe. Yet the geological argument does not quell rumors of frequent sightings many boaters and fishermen in the area have long shared stories of bizarre lights diving beneath waves and vanishing without explanation. The tension between scientific rationale and the allure of an otherworldly narrative remains unresolved. Here, too, the ocean acts as a cloak concealing wonders, whether mundane geological quirks or cosmic secrets beyond our easy reach. These two sites, while separated by continents, highlight humanity's enduring fascination with hidden depths, bridging local folklore potential, extraterrestrial speculation, and the unending quest to reconcile empirical evidence with paranormal possibility. Lake Vostok in Antarctica and the Yonaguni Monument. Antarctica's Lake Vostok occupies a polar opposite context, both literally and figuratively, from the warm, wave-battered coast of Malibu. Encased beneath 3.7 kilometers to 3 miles of ice, Lake Vostok remained entirely isolated from Earth's surface for millennia. Discovered via airborne radar in 1993, it soon became a subject of frenzied scientific focus, as researchers theorized that its waters could harbor ecosystems evolving independently since the age of dinosaurs. The isolation of subglacial lakes forms a unique crucible for microbial life, echoing philosophical contemplations about how life originates and adapts. If remote pockets like Lake Vostok prove teeming with undiscovered organisms, these hidden ecosystems might parallel what believers in panspermia suggest about life's cosmic distribution, namely that life can persist and adapt even under conditions once deemed entirely uninhabitable. In the early 2000s, Russian scientists drilled into Lake Vostok to retrieve water samples. To their collective astonishment, the water tested positive for bacterial DNA, unlike any registered in global databases, implying the presence of organisms that could be new to science. This revelation raises questions about evolution, ecological niches, and the resilience of life in extreme cold with limited nutrients. Adding to the lake's aura of mystery is the massive magnetic anomaly recorded near its eastern fringe. Some have proposed that this anomaly indicates geological features such as thinner crust or subterranean volcanic activity. Unsurprisingly, more esoteric interpretations abound, hypothesizing advanced civilizations from deep prehistory or even UFO bases. For religious philosophers, Lake Vostok becomes a metaphor for hidden spiritual wells within human consciousness, often frozen and obscured, yet teeming with potential if ever tapped. Whether approached scientifically, mythically, or philosophically, Antarctica's largest subglacial lake broadens our sense of wonder regarding life's tenacity and the planet's intricate subterranean layers. Thousands of kilometers away in the warm waters off southwestern Japan, divers have encountered a different kind of enigma, the Yonaguni Monument. Discovered in 1986 near Yonaguni Island, this submerged structure consists of massive stone terraces, rectangular blocks, and formations that appear eerily geometric. Marine geologist Masaki Kimura contends that these are remnants of a prehistoric civilization dating back at least 10,000 years, predating the famous Egyptian pyramids. He believes he has identified inscriptions or symbols carved into the stone suggesting a form of proto-writing. This perspective conjures images of a lost city consumed by rising sea levels toward the end of the last ice age. Others remain skeptical, attributing Yonaguni's step terraces and right angles to the island's natural sandstone fault lines and erosional patterns. Such phenomena, they argue, can create illusions of deliberate design without human intervention. From a philosophical standpoint, Yonaguni's allure might lie in humanity's deep-seated desire to find lost civilizations, proof perhaps that our accepted chronology of progress could be incomplete. Religious parallels abound too. Many cultures harbor flood myths describing divine retribution that swallowed entire lands. Whether these stony formations are man-made or natural, they serve as a vivid reminder of how quickly land can transition into seabed under changing climatic conditions, and how legends of sunken lands and utopian societies persist from Plato's Atlantis to Buddhist accounts of Shambhala. The two sites, an icy subterranean lake in Antarctica and a warm underwater structure in the Pacific, illustrate the ocean's paradox. It can entomb knowledge just as easily as it can reveal it, beckoning explorers to unlock secrets that might rewrite chapters of Earth's history. Dragonhole and the ghost ship MV Joyita. Hidden in the South China Sea lies a phenomenon the local fishermen have christened the Dragon Hole, believed to be the deepest blue hole in the world at nearly 300 miles (987 ft). Across faith traditions, dragons are frequently portrayed as omnipotent guardians of treasures, bridging the earthly and divine realms. Chinese folklore enshrines dragons as protectors or harbingers of fortune. Thus, it is no surprise that a sinkhole of monumental depth with near-vertical walls would be woven into mythic narratives. Local legends claim this hole was the lair of a colossal dragon, a sleeping titan whose awakening would herald cataclysmic events for coastal communities. Science, for its part, highlights the geological factors behind blue holes. Typically, they are sinkholes that formed on land during previous ice ages, later flooded as sea levels rose. Researchers who investigated the Dragon Hole discovered precipitous drops in oxygen levels past a certain depth, culminating in a virtual dead zone where most marine life cannot survive. Those divers have documented an array of corals and fish closer to the surface. The deeper recesses of the Dragon Hole remain as forbidding as any haunted domain. In some ways, it parallels spiritual conceptions of an underworld. What lurks beyond the reach of light and air? Are there forms of life specially adapted to these extremes, akin to pale subterranean creatures thriving in total darkness? Answers remain scarce as technical challenges and high costs hamper systematic exploration. Parallels with subglacial lakes or deep ocean trenches abound wherever the sun's rays fail to penetrate. Evolutionary processes can diverge. Ancient philosophers might have seen such an environment as emblematic of the hidden or invisible aspects of the cosmos, neither wholly inhospitable nor entirely vacant, but existing beyond the boundaries of normal perception. Switching from a geological abyss to a maritime legend, we encounter the unsettling saga of the MV Joyita, a vessel launched in 1931 as a luxury yacht and later converted into a transport ship. In October 1955, she set sail from Samoa to Tokelau and never arrived. When she was finally discovered, a month later adrift and listing 600 nautical miles off course, her passengers and crew had vanished. Equipment was torn out, blood-stained bandages littered the deck, and the lifeboats were missing. The plausible theories range from accidental flooding prompting a rushed abandonment to pirate attacks or freak waves sweeping the deck. But none explain why the sturdy ship remained afloat, nor the ominous details like broken radios set to the emergency frequency or a clock stopped precisely at 10:25. In maritime lore and religious narratives, ghost ships often serve as cautionary tales, urging respect for forces that humanity cannot control. The MV Joyita's fate remains a chilling reminder. While men craft vessels to defy the sea, the ocean can just as swiftly reclaim them. Like many maritime mysteries, we see a confluence of speculation, tragedy, and the unwavering sense that something more than mundane mischance may have occurred. And so, whether we speak of an immense cavern in the sea's depth or a small drifting craft abandoned to nature's mercy, the ocean's capacity to evoke both wonder and dread feels inexhaustible. The Baltic Sea object in the sunken city of Herakleion. Few modern discoveries have ignited imaginations quite like the mysterious object beneath the Baltic Sea, often referred to as the Baltic Sea anomaly. First detected by the Swedish Ocean X-Team in 2011, it appeared on sonar as a large circular structure, roughly 60 meters 200 ft across, perched atop a 26 meter 85 ft high pillar. Initial images showed what looked like stair-like formations leading into an inky void. The anomaly's shape, coupled with accounts of nearby electronic malfunctions, spurred comparisons to fictional spacecraft like Star Wars' Millennium Falcon. Mainstream scientists, however, suggest that glacial processes sculpted the formation thousands of years ago, depositing rocks and carving channels in a manner that can mimic man-made geometry. Their sampling of the object's material indicated granite gneiss and sandstone common in glacially affected regions. Yet the Ocean X divers remained skeptical, recounting electromagnetic interference that rendered their instruments unreliable whenever they neared the site. In spiritual or metaphysical discourse, the concept of forbidden zones or energetically charged sites resonates. The Baltic anomaly might represent an aquatic temple of the unknown, an echo of times when people assumed natural wonders to be supernatural altars. Whether or not we attribute the anomaly to UFOs, the interplay of data, anecdotal experiences, and public enthusiasm underscores the ocean's unique power to stoke creative speculation. Meanwhile, on the opposite side of Europe, a once prosperous metropolis of ancient Egypt lay submerged for centuries, the sunken city of Herakleion, also known as Thonis. Situated near the mouth of the Nile, Herakleion thrived as a crucial trading port linking Egypt with the Mediterranean world. Greek historian Herodotus described it as a bustling site, with grand temples dedicated to Amun and other deities echoing the city's spiritual significance. Over time, tectonic shifts, rising water tables, and catastrophic earthquakes conspired to send it beneath the waves. Long regarded as a mere legend, Herakleion's existence was confirmed in 2000 by French underwater archaeologist Frank Godiot. Divers came upon colossal statues of Egyptian gods, intricate temple foundations, and an array of artifacts, coins, pottery, and everyday utensils still intact. This discovery challenges assumptions about how quickly entire cities can vanish and how ephemeral human enterprise can be in the face of geological upheavals. Herakleion's temples and monumental gates, now encased in silt, reflect the fragility of civilizations, even those once deemed eternal. In philosophical discourse, the narrative of Herakleion parallels ideas that the greatest of human achievements may be fleeting illusions if not sustained by vigilance and adaptation. Religiously, the submergence of once great sanctuaries evokes the biblical notion of entire cities falling from divine grace, swallowed by waters as an act of cosmic reckoning. Whether we interpret it as nature's unstoppable force or as a cautionary fable, Herakleion's silent underwater boulevards serve as time capsules, waiting for explorers to resurrect the voices of a lost age. The Death Lake and the Curious Pyrosome. When discussing underwater perils, we often envision sharks or hidden reefs. Yet nature can conjure hazards that dwarf these conventional threats, as exemplified by the death lake hidden beneath the Red Sea, a super salty brine pool devoid of oxygen. These undersea lakes within oceans form when salty groundwater or ancient salt deposits leach into local waters, creating layers so concentrated that they remain distinctly separate from surrounding seas. Fish and other creatures wandering into these dense brine layers suffer immediate shock, succumbing within seconds. Thus, a ring of death forms around the pool, ironically supporting an ecosystem of scavengers who wait at the perimeter for unfortunate victims to drift inside. Philosophers and theologians have likened such stark boundaries where mere inches separate abundant life from a lethal environment to the razor's edge that divides moral or spiritual states. Life is precarious, each step potentially leading to a realm from which there is no return. Strangely, not all bizarre marine phenomena lead to instantaneous doom. Consider the pyrosome, often described as a sea monster when observed at large scales. A pyrosome is not a single creature, but a colony of thousands or even millions of tiny zooids forming one tubular, free-floating structure. These translucent gelatinous tubes can stretch over 1860 ft, and they glow through bioluminescence, turning deep waters into ethereal glowing corridors. Early explorers sometimes documented sightings of luminescent serpents fueling maritime legends. Modern science, while understanding their communal feeding processes and near-constant drifting, remains enchanted by their mesmerizing glow. Pyrosomes challenge rigid categories between individual and collective. They blur the line between singular organism and colony, reflecting theological notions of unity in multiplicity, akin to how many religious orders view congregations as individual members forming a single spiritual body. Whether encountered by novice divers or studied by marine biologists, these drifting tubes remind us that our planet's biodiversity transcends many of our learned definitions. The presence of something so simultaneously delicate and otherworldly underscores a recurring theme in oceanic mystery. The deeper we look, the more we realize the sea is an ecosystem of paradoxes, both lethal brine pools and dazzling communal creatures, each adapted to its own peculiar niche. Sunken city off Cuba and modern-day pirates in Indonesia. One of the 21st century's most provocative marine stories erupted in 2001 when researcher Pauline Zalitsky, utilizing advanced sonar systems, stumbled upon what appeared to be a submerged city off Cuba's western coast. Shapes resembling massive pyramids, roads and symmetrical foundations lay at depths of over 650 meters to 130 ft. Many in the media proclaimed it could be evidence of Atlantis, while others insisted these shapes were natural formations misconstrued by wishful thinking. Curious still is how the story mostly disappeared from headlines with no significant follow-up expeditions or conclusive data publicly released. Speculation abounds about government interference, funding issues, or simply the complexities of exploring such deep waters. Philosophically, these controversies highlight the tension between sensationalism and systematic research. For some, the very scarcity of new information bolsters the notion that the site is truly extraordinary, a suppressed revelation that might upend accepted chronologies of human civilization. Yet from a scholarly vantage, verifying an ancient city requires archaeological artifacts, tools, inscriptions, or structures unequivocally shaped by human hands. With no definitive evidence provided, the so-called sunken city remains in a twilight zone of rumor and partially glimpsed sonar prints. In stark contrast to these submerged relics of the distant past, the modern world grapples with a different sort of maritime menace: piracy off the Indonesian coast. Often overshadowed by romanticized tales of buccaneers and privateers from centuries ago, contemporary piracy is alarmingly real and frequently violent. Indonesia's geographic layout, a sprawl of over 17,500 islands, enables criminals to navigate hidden coves, labyrinthine channels, and under-patrolled maritime routes, while the global community focuses on piracy in places like Somalia. Statistics from the International Maritime Bureau paint Indonesia as arguably the planet's most active pirate zone, often exceeding 40 attacks annually. The motivations behind these raids vary from opportunistic theft to organized criminal networks that hijack oil tankers, sometimes repainting vessels and forging new identities. Humanitarian aspects intersect as well. Impoverished communities living in remote archipelagos sometimes see piracy as a quick path to survival. Religious leaders across multiple faiths in the region denounce such actions, citing moral imperatives of peace and the sanctity of life on the seas. Moreover, maritime theology in local cultures where sea spirits or deities are revered stands in tension with the violence inflicted on passing ships. Ultimately, confronting piracy involves reinforcing law enforcement capabilities, fostering socioeconomic growth for coastal populations, and encouraging international collaboration to ensure maritime safety. Thus, from ancient potential civilizations lying silent beneath Cuba's seas to modern predators operating in Indonesian waters, we witness again the broad spectrum of oceanic intrigue, where the lessons of the past collide with the urgencies of the present, and where our relentless fascination continues to drive exploration, vigilance, and debate. Turbulent tides and concealed depths. Scotland's monster whirlpool and the Yap and Palau trenches, heading north to the chilly waters between the islands of Jura and Scarborough. Scotland, we encounter a phenomenon as dramatic as any oceanic legend: the Gulf of Corryvreckan, notorious for its monster whirlpool. Here, the collision of fierce tidal currents with a colossal underwater pinnacle generates a maelstrom that can tower several meters high and reverberate like thunder across the rocky coasts. The swirl has featured in Celtic mythology as a place of spiritual testing. Some Gaelic legends speak of warriors proving their bravery by venturing into the maelstrom's domain, seeking oracles from the gods who supposedly reside in these swirling waters. Even modern vessels exercise considerable caution as the vortex has claimed numerous boats over the centuries. Oceanographers liken these whirlpools to natural phenomena caused by tidal surges, submarine topography, and local wind conditions, but the raw power on display can hardly be captured by textbook definitions alone. The sheer magnitude of Corryvreckan has inspired a mosaic of myths, from serpentine sea beasts to cursed princes, reflecting how communities interpret extreme natural events through narrative frameworks that blend myth, history, and moral lessons. By contrast, the tropical regions of the Western Pacific hide two equally formidable but far less visible giants: the Yap and Palau trenches. While the Mariana Trench often steals the spotlight, Yap descends to 8,930 29,300 ft, and Palau plunges to 8,138 meters 26,732 ft. These abysses rank among Earth's deepest oceanic pits. Yet what distinguishes Yap and Palau from other trenches is their width and topographical variation, offering sprawling undersea valleys that could shelter myriad unknown marine species. In 2022, explorers Victor Vescovo and Cesario Son Roque made groundbreaking dives here, encountering bioluminescent fish, peculiar invertebrates and microbial ecosystems adapted to near-freezing temperatures and crushing pressure. Such revelations ignite scientific discussions about the evolutionary paths life can take. These trenches push the boundaries of what we know about biology, akin to discovering new micro-worlds where survival hinges on biochemical innovations that neutralize enormous water pressure. Religious or philosophical thinkers could interpret these pits as Earth's own pockets of absolution or penance places that test the limits of creation. Their inaccessibility and the slow pace of thorough investigation suggest a cosmos of hidden wonders, unknown species, geochemical processes, or even clues to the origin of life. Just as the monstrous Scottish whirlpool symbolizes raw natural might, these oceanic trenches underscore the planet's capacity for depth and complexity, urging humility in the face of the vast and mostly unexplored aquatic frontier. The Samasan Hole and China's Lion City. The Samasan Hole, off the coast of Thailand in the Gulf of Thailand, is not particularly deep compared to the world's great trenches. Its maximum depth is around 85 meters, 279 ft. Yet it has gained infamy as a death trap for unsuspecting divers. Used historically by the Thai military for discarding munitions, the seafloor bristles with live explosives in various states of decay. Imagine descending into a realm where each silt-laden object could be a ticking bomb primed to detonate at the slightest disturbance. The swirling currents around Samasan add further peril, unpredictably shifting divers' trajectories and making it alarmingly easy to wander into a zone of corroded shells. Despite local regulations, reckless thrill seekers occasionally attempt to test their skill or perhaps their luck, diving into these ominous waters. Many cultures warn against tempting fate, especially in domains that mingle human hubris with lethal potential. Samasan Hole stands as a stark embodiment of that warning, beckoning with an undercurrent of grim allure, while simultaneously reinforcing the morale that some secrets are best left unprobed. Moving northwest to a more tranquil, yet equally astonishing, underwater site, Lion City Shicheng lies submerged beneath China's Qiandao Lake in Zhejiang province. Submerged deliberately during the construction of a hydroelectric dam in 1959, this once thriving city dates back to the Tang Dynasty, 7th century AD, and once boasted around 300,000 residents. The city's architectural features, ornate arches, stone slab streets, and towering gates remain remarkably intact in the placid freshwater environment. Qiandao Lake's calm waters have acted like a natural preservative, freezing the city's final moment in time. Divers who explore these sunken avenues speak of an eerie majesty, as though stepping into a time warp. China's spiritual traditions, particularly Taoism and Buddhism, emphasize the transience of worldly constructs, teaching that external forms inevitably succumb to change. Lion City serves as a literal demonstration. Its structures, once bustling with daily commerce and vibrant tradition, now rest silent beneath the lake's surface. Yet ironically, in that watery repose, the ancient city has acquired a modern, spiritual resonance. Divers sometimes describe a sense of the sacred or mystical comparable to visiting an ancient temple. The cross-currents of history and nature converge an engineered submersion intended to supply electricity has yielded a unique underwater museum, bridging past and present, ephemeral and enduring. Thus, while Samasan Hole cautions us about the destructive residues of human conflict, Lion City accentuates the historical layering of construction and submersion, reminding us how swiftly the living tapestry of civilization can become a still life sealed within aquatic depths. Oasis of ravenous sharks in the Eplet warship. The Indian Ocean reveals yet another chilling spectacle known as the Oasis of Ravenous Sharks. Residing at around 500 meters, or 1640 ft below the surface, this bizarre ecosystem exists along sheer rock walls, where fish can become trapped in enclosed corridors, effectively turning certain sections of the undersea realm into feeding grounds for apex predators. Sharks, along with other formidable carnivores, congregate here in high densities, exploiting the unlucky schools of fish that wander into these natural cul-de-sacs. Marine biologists studying this phenomenon liken it to a watery coliseum where the drama of survival unfolds daily, predator and prey locked in an endless cycle. Religious or philosophical observers might interpret this scenario as an underwater microcosm of life's inherent struggles. In Eastern traditions, such as Buddhism, the concept of samsara speaks of relentless cycles of suffering and rebirth. Meanwhile, Christian mystics throughout history have often used the metaphor of sharks circling a sinking vessel to represent existential threats and spiritual vigilance. Certainly, the oasis of ravenous sharks underscores the brutality and beauty of evolutionary adaptation, an ongoing testament to how life forms exploit every ecological niche. Turning from savage predator havens to a relic of maritime conquest, we encounter the Eplet warship discovered off Sweden's coast. A 17th-century sister ship to the ill-fated Vasa Eplet served in the Swedish Navy during the protracted 30 Years' War. 1618–1648, a conflict that ravaged Central Europe and realigned political and religious landscapes. Commissioned after the Vasa famously sank on its maiden voyage in 1628, Eplet soldiered on before it was eventually scuttled, deliberately sunk once it became obsolete. Historians and archaeologists lauded the wreck's discovery because it provides insight into shipbuilding, naval warfare, and daily life aboard a warship of that era. The 1600s marked a time when European nations fiercely competed for maritime supremacy, an age of religious reformation and political upheaval. Eplet, entombed in the Baltic Sea's cold, oxygen-poor waters, remained surprisingly intact, protected by conditions that hindered wood-boring organisms. Symbolically, Eplet testifies to an epoch where sea power determined empires' fortunes and moral or theological narratives often justified martial actions. Religious sermons of the time likened naval triumph to divine favor, while defeats were scoured for signs of moral failing. The wreck thus becomes a mirror reflecting not only the technical achievements of the period, but also the worldview that shaped each timber laid in its hull. Though the Eplet rests beyond casual visitation, restricted within a military zone, it stands as a submerged museum of an era characterized by fervent conquests, alliances, and sectarian divides, bridging narratives of war faith and maritime ambition. England's medieval shipwreck and the ancient Roman anchor, continuing the theme of underwater archaeological treasures, the English coastline has yielded two revelations that cast new light on both medieval commerce and Roman maritime exploits. The first is an unnamed medieval merchant ship discovered by researchers from Bournemouth University. This wreck, believed to date back to the mid-13th century, carried a cargo of Purbeck marble, a cherished stone used in churches and cathedrals across medieval Europe. The ship's timbers were fashioned from Irish oak, evidence of trade routes that spanned the British Isles and the continent. This find reinforces how connected medieval Europe was, even in an age we often consider technologically primitive. The presence of stone from southern England found on a vessel built with Irish resources underscores a web of commerce akin to a proto-globalization. Philosophically, we might note that in an era steeped in religious devotion, building materials for holy sites were transported across perilous seas, signifying the confluence of economic aspirations with sacred undertakings. Here, the synergy between spiritual aspiration, cathedrals dedicated to the divine, and pragmatic collaboration, shipbuilders, stonecutters, merchants, exemplifies how faith and trade have historically interwoven in the tapestry of European life. Meanwhile, from roughly 1,000 years earlier, comes another maritime marvel, an ancient Roman anchor, estimated to date from the 1st or 2nd century AD, found off England's coast and weighing around 100 kilograms. This anchor, part of the earliest known shipping technologies in the region, reveals the operational extent of the Roman navy. It likely belonged to a vessel from the classis Britannica, the Roman naval force charged with patrolling and securing the channel. Scholars infer that the presence of such a heavy anchor suggests relatively large Roman ships ventured regularly into these northern waters, transporting supplies, troops, and possibly trade goods. In religious contexts, anchors often symbolize hope or spiritual steadfastness, especially within early Christian iconography, where an anchor sometimes replaced the cross as a discrete symbol of faith under Roman persecution. One might see a poignant resonance in discovering a literal Roman anchor submerged near the shores of a land that once lay at the far fringes of the empire. The artifact stands as a testament to civilization's expansive aspirations. Each anchor lowered into these turbulent seas announced Rome's push toward global dominion. In contemporary reflection, we can appreciate how the ocean's archaeology clarifies that expansions of empire went hand in hand with expansions of cultural and religious influences. As waves gradually wore away historical footprints on land, these watery graves preserved a more authentic record of day-to-day endeavors, bridging the ephemeral nature of empire with the physical reminders resting in silent underwater cathedrals of silt and sand. The Delta P phenomenon and the toxic dump off California. Despite the romance and wonder that accompany underwater discoveries, the ocean can swiftly become lethal due to less glamorous but equally terrifying realities. A stark example is the delta P differential pressure phenomenon, which has been dubbed the invisible killer by commercial divers. Delta P occurs when water flows from a region of high pressure to low pressure through a confined opening such as a cracked pipeline, a small breach in a ship's hull, or the intake of a dam. The rapid movement of water creates a force strong enough to entrap and crush animals, divers, or equipment with chilling efficiency. Viral videos depict unsuspecting crabs drawn abruptly through tiny leaks, underscoring how lethal these invisible traps can be. Human fatalities provide even more sobering testimony. Entire teams of seasoned divers have been sucked into pipelines, unable to overcome the vortex. In mythological or religious paradigms, underwater vortexes or monstrous whirlpools were often attributed to wrathful deities. Delta P offers a rational explanation for at least some of these tragedies, though no less horrifying in its real-world impact. This phenomenon serves as a grim reminder that the ocean, for all its surface tranquility, harbors potent forces that can escalate from serene to catastrophic in seconds. Equally disturbing but stemming from human negligence is the toxic dump off the coast of California, sometimes referred to as the underwater chemical graveyard. Between the 1930s and 1970s, companies around Los Angeles disposed of industrial waste, including hundreds of tons of DDT, dichlorodiphenyltrichloroethane, by sealing it into barrels and sinking them into the ocean. Only in recent decades has the scale of this practice come to light. Thousands of corroding barrels rest on the seafloor, their toxic contents leaching into the marine ecosystem. DDT is infamous for bioaccumulation, leading to sterility cancer and birth defects in wildlife and potentially impacting human food chains. Religious traditions speak of the ocean, a sacred trust given to humanity, urging stewardship and respect. The reality of these rusting chemical drums stands as a sorrowful testament to a historical era when short-term industrial gains overshadowed moral responsibility or environmental foresight. Marine biologists have recorded dangerously high contaminant levels in local dolphins and sea lions, some of which show tumors and genetic anomalies. This ecological crisis underscores a broader philosophical conundrum. How do societies address sins of the past when the environment becomes the victim? Cleanup efforts face technical and financial hurdles, as disturbing the barrels could unleash even larger bursts of poison. Thus, these twin specters, Delta P and toxic dumping, exemplify how the ocean's capacity for awe can turn inexorably dire, revealing aspects of nature's and humanity's darker interplay. In the face of these hazards, perhaps a renewed ethical approach to oceanic engagement is not just idealistic, but essential for future survival. Egypt's blue hole and the Bermuda Triangle's methane. Hypothesis Dahab. A coastal town on Egypt's Sinai Peninsula is home to the notorious Blue Hole, often labeled the diver's graveyard. At first glance, its crystal-clear water and inviting turquoise ring belie one of the deadliest dive sites on Earth. The Blue Hole extends down to around 130 meters, 426 ft, and at about 56 184 ft lies a perilous archway that tempts advanced divers with mesmerizing undersea scenery. The risks are manifold. Nitrogen narcosis, which clouds judgment, can lead divers to miscalculate depth or air supply. Strong currents sweeping from the open sea have also claimed their share of souls. The site's macabre reputation is immortalized by numerous memorial plaques along the shore, each bearing the name of a life lost. Within a religious framework, water is frequently an agent of purification or rebirth. Yet in the Blue Hole's case, it starkly demonstrates the final boundary between exploration and mortal vulnerability. Philosophically, this underwater arch could stand as a metaphor for humanity's unyielding drive to push boundaries, even when crossing them endangers life. Rescue attempts are often futile, as descending divers are at risk themselves. Some seasoned explorers regard the Blue Hole with an almost mythic reverence, acknowledging it as a place where skilled fate and humility collide. Another famed maritime enigma is the Bermuda Triangle, spanning roughly the area between Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico. Legends of vanished ships and aircraft have turned this region into an emblem of oceanic peril. Various speculative theories abound, from disruptions in Earth's magnetic field to portals to other dimensions. A more grounded scientific explanation that emerged involves methane hydrates embedded under the seafloor. If large pockets of methane gas are suddenly released, they could drastically reduce water density, causing ships to sink instantly and planes to experience engine failure. Scientists have indeed documented methane craters off Norway's coast, demonstrating the feasibility of such eruptions. Yet no direct correlation between large-scale methane releases and Bermuda Triangle disappearances has been confirmed, leaving the theory inconclusive. Religious or mystical traditions may interpret the triangle's puzzle as either divine retribution, a domain of vengeful spirits, or an intersection point of Earth's energy lines. The broader philosophical question arises: why do certain areas of the planet remain so entangled with myth, rumor, and inexplicable occurrences? Whether the triangle's mysteries can be explained by rogue waves, human error, or less frequent but dramatic geological phenomena, its lingering mystique exemplifies how storytelling endures. Like the Blue Hole's arch, the Bermuda Triangle stands as a testament to the human penchant for weaving legends around areas that defy comprehension, reinforcing the notion that, in the interplay between sea and psyche, certain narratives simply refuse to sink. K-278. Komsomolets, venturing into the realm of modern naval catastrophes, leads us to one of the darkest chapters in Soviet maritime history, the K-278 Komsomolets. Launched in 1983, it boasted formidable engineering, including a titanium hull, enabling it to dive deeper than many of its contemporary subs, over 1,000 honor and 3,281 FTs. Despite this advanced design, on April 7, 1989, an onboard fire near the Norwegian Sea led to a catastrophic chain of events. Though the crew managed an emergency, surfacing, the submarine eventually sank to a depth of approximately 1,700 miles, 577 FT, taking 42 lives. Radioactive leakage from its reactors and nuclear warheads raised alarm for environmentalists and fishing communities who feared contamination in the Barents Sea. Although Soviet and later Russian authorities monitored the site, concerns persist about the long-term effects of radiation in these chilly northern waters. Religious traditions have often linked deep-water tragedies to humanity's arrogance in trying to conquer domains better left to the gods. This tragedy resonates with such cautionary themes. It reveals how technological prowess may deliver remarkable capabilities, but a single flaw or unforeseen fire can unleash irreversible havoc. As we transition to Part 3, let us reflect on the recurring currents each phenomenon, whether natural wonder, vanished city, or modern tragedy, underscore our planet's capacity for secrecy, and the ocean's role as both playground and graveyard for human ambition. We have seen how mysteries endure in silent, watery tombs, how high-tech ventures collide with unstoppable forces, and how environmental hazards of our own making can return to threaten us. In the final part, we will delve into arguably the greatest enigma of them all, Challenger deep in the Mariana Trench. There, depth and darkness reign supreme, challenging our capacity for technological innovation and philosophical interpretation alike. If all the wonders catalogued so far can be seen as preludes, then the Mariana Trench, with its most profound point, Challenger Deep, stands as the culminating threshold of the ocean's unending mystery. Into the Earth's abyss. Challenger. Deep and beyond. Recap of oceanic wonders and philosophical undercurrents. Before we journey into the extreme reaches of the Mariana Trench, it is worth pausing to appreciate the tapestry of phenomena we have witnessed in parts 1 and 2. We began amidst the ice-laden expanses of Lake Baikal and the rumored UFO base off Malibu, seeing how cultural myths and scientific inquiry merge when confronted with unexplainable anomalies. From Antarctica's Lake Vostok, where life thrives under kilometers of ice, to the Yonaguni Monument's possible evidence of a submerged ancient civilization, our explorations have danced between cutting-edge geology, archaeology, and the boundary where myth might just be fact. Along the way, we encountered maritime enigmas both delightful and deadly, the ghost ship MV Joyita drifting aimlessly across the South Pacific, and the Baltic Sea object fueling UFO fever, even as geologists argue for a mundane explanation rooted in glacial deposits. In scanning these stories, a common philosophical thread emerges: the tension between the knowable and the unfathomable. Religious viewpoints often interpret unexplained events as signs or tests, weaving them into doctrines of faith and moral instruction. Philosophers of science might argue that each unresolved mystery spurs new hypotheses, pushing the frontier of knowledge. Cultural narratives, whether Celtic accounts of maelstroms or Chinese legends of sleeping dragons, illustrate how societies embed cosmic wonder within their moral and existential frameworks. Meanwhile, environmental cautionary tales remind us how swiftly technology's progress can sour into lethal hazards like the Delta P phenomenon or the toxic chemical dumps that degrade marine habitats. Pirates in Indonesia, or the cataclysmic meltdown of the K-278 Komsomolets, likewise demonstrate that human ambition and conflict do not spare the ocean realm. Poised on this continuum of marvels and warnings, the Mariana Trench emerges as the logical apex, Earth's deepest known chasm, harboring conditions akin to an alien world. If the scattered mysteries we've surveyed constitute the wide arc of oceanic enchantment, then the Mariana Trench focuses that arc into a single staggering question. How far can we probe the planet's interior extremes, and what might we find there? The story of Challenger Deep. Both its exploration and the haunting records of unknown sounds emanating from its depths provides an apt conclusion to our tour of oceanic riddles. Let us now trace the steps of those who have descended into what is arguably the final frontier on Earth, a journey that will test both technology's limits and the imagination's capacity to conceive of life beyond all precedent. Challenger Deep. The deepest place on Earth, located at the southern tip of the Mariana Trench in the western Pacific. Challenger Deep plunges to nearly 11,000 or 36,000 ft. This is more than enough depth to submerge Mount Everest if it were inverted. The name itself commemorates the HMS Challenger expedition of the 1870s, which first sounded the trench using weighted lines, only to be astonished by readings that defied everything previously charted. Even today, scientists debate the precise maximum depth by a margin of dozens of meters, a testament to how challenging and fluid such measurements remain. Temperatures near the trench floor hover just above freezing, and the pressure is a crushing 1,000 atmospheres, or roughly 8 tons per square inch. That environment is so hostile that most submarine vessels and machinery would collapse like tin cans unless specifically engineered for those immense forces. Historical explorations of Challenger Deep encapsulate a saga of human ingenuity pitted against nature's extremes. In 1960, oceanographer Jacques Picard and Lieutenant Don Walsh made history aboard the bathyscaphe Trieste, descending to an estimated 10,916 mm 35 840 ft. The pair braved a near-fatal structural crack in the submersible's outer plexiglass window, yet managed to stay at the bottom for about 20 minutes. Their triumph, overshadowed by the global space race of the era, still resonates as one of the 20th century's greatest feats of exploration. Half a century later, film director James Cameron famously undertook a solo descent in 2012, achieving a near 11,000 mature reading and spending valuable time collecting samples and high-definition footage. These missions confirmed that life, albeit in specialized forms, thrives in perpetual darkness amid near-freezing temperatures and formidable pressures. Bizarre amphipods and microbes persist in these depths, feeding on marine snow, organic particles, drifting down from above, or utilizing chemosynthesis at hydrothermal vents. Evolution's adaptability thus manifests as a living parable of perseverance, providing a real-world corollary to spiritual teachings about endurance in adversity. To philosophers, Challenger Deep stands as an evocative frontier, reminiscent of the cosmic struggles described in certain mythologies, where heroes venture into underworld realms to glean ultimate truths. For religious thinkers, it might represent a modern-day pilgrimage, one that delves not into holy mountains, but descends into Earth's liquid core in quest of knowledge. These plunges expand the boundaries of our scientific consciousness and test the spiritual notion that no domain is beyond the scope of human curiosity. The deeper we descend, the more the surface world's illusions fade. In such crushing depths, only the essential, the inherent willingness to explore endures. Challenger Deep thus serves as both a pinnacle and an abyss demanding humility as humankind attempts to map and name the final, uncharted corners of the Earth. Strange sounds and the Western Pacific biotwang. While the visual spectacle of Challenger Deep garners attention, there is another dimension that few realize. The Mariana Trench is anything but silent. Researchers who lowered sensitive hydrophones to record ambient noise were astonished by the variety of sounds, some easily identified, others inexplicably alien. Among these acoustic oddities, the Western Pacific biotwang stands out. It begins with a low rumble, escalates into a piercing metallic shriek, and concludes with a pulsing hum that resonates through the watery darkness. The cycle repeats at intervals that defy straightforward biological or geological categorization. Some scientists hypothesize that the sound might be produced by an unknown species of whale, practicing specialized communication to navigate and hunt in the extreme deep. Alternatively, tectonic activity could release pressure in sporadic bursts, generating eerie reverberations that mimic living calls. However, the mechanical clarity of the biotwang, coupled with the high frequencies, involved fuel more outlandish conjectures. Perhaps clandestine submarines conduct classified operations in these depths, or even more audaciously, that advanced extraterrestrial or aquatic civilizations dwell beyond our standard detection. In theological or mythological frames, unknown calls from the deep often symbolize beckoning from a hidden realm, an invitation or warning from submerged gods or demonic entities. Ancient Greek philosophers viewed oceanic gulfs as liminal spaces, thresholds between mortal existence and the unknown cosmos. Today's researchers rely on spectrographic analysis and signal comparison, building catalogs of undersea acoustic phenomena to parse out anomalies. Yet the question remains, how many categories can we realistically prepare for when venturing into an environment so rarely visited, so poorly understood? Beyond the Western Pacific. Biotwang, the hydrophones picked up an entire soundscape, rhythmic knocking, reminiscent of mechanical drumming, extended moans that crescendo and fade, and intermittent pulses, reminiscent of sonar pings, though no submarine was known to be in the area. In a literary sense, these hidden choruses evoke the idea of Earth's oceans as the planet's unconscious mind brimming with ephemeral signals that hint at deeper truths. Just as Sigmund Freud posited that unexamined subconscious drives shape human behavior, so too might unexamined oceanic acoustics reveal fundamental processes shaping our planet's health and future. As speculation merges with data, a humbling realization takes root even as we decipher partial truths from these signals. An even larger percentage remains unclassified, unreplicable, and thus mystical. The acoustic labyrinth of Challenger Deep in particular accentuates the possibility that entire chapters of Earth's story, biological, geological, or even cosmic, remain unwritten in the darkness below. Speculative theories and UFO narratives in the deep, where data fails folklore, and the imagination often take hold. Since the earliest days of oceanic exploration, there have been rumors of USOs, unidentified submerged objects craft of inexplicable origin, seen diving into or emerging from the depths. The notion that advanced alien life forms could hide in our planet's most unreachable trenches is a mainstay of certain conspiracy theories, bridging older myths of undersea gods like the Greek Poseidon or the Babylonian Oans with modern UFO lore. In the Mariana region, anecdotal tales from naval officers and local fishermen mention luminous objects traveling at impossible speeds, underwater defying what we know of hydrodynamics. Though mainstream scientists caution that these sightings could be illusions, bioluminescent fauna, equipment malfunctions, or even psychological misinterpretations, the lack of thorough documentation ensures the speculation persists. Interestingly, a handful of religious traditions posit that the deep ocean is home to demonic or angelic beings. In various expansions of Judeo-Christian texts, the monstrous Leviathan is portrayed as a primordial creature lurking in the watery abyss. Some esoteric teachings interpret these scriptural references metaphorically suggesting the Leviathan stands for humankind's primal fears. UFO enthusiasts, in contrast, might propose that Leviathan is simply an archaic name for an advanced submarine vehicle. That an overlap exists between archaic mythology and modern sightings highlights our need to impose narratives on the unknown. From a philosophical lens, it is natural that we fill informational voids with storied frameworks. Yet to date, no conclusive proof of technologically advanced aquatic life beyond known earthly evolution has emerged. Scientific expeditions remain open to discovering new forms of life in trenches like the Mariana, but not in the sense of hyper-advanced civilizations. The ocean's capacity to kindle these narratives is partly a reflection of its uncharted scale. The same impetus that drove ancient peoples to worship sea deities or fear monstrous sea serpents drives contemporary speculation about alien outposts. We are left with the same fundamental question: is the ocean simply Earth's final frontier for purely natural phenomena, or a cosmic crossroads where mysteries beyond our planet may intersect, balancing science, spiritual reflection, and environmental responsibility? In confronting such extremes from sub-zero lakes locked under Antarctic ice to the bottomless canyons of the Pacific, it is crucial to recognize that our capacity to discover can outpace our capacity to protect. Exploiting deep-sea resources, rare minerals, New pharmaceutical compounds looms as a potential future frontier for human enterprise. Yet the ethical concerns are stark. Deep-sea ecosystems are delicate. Disturbances at great depth can have cascading effects on marine biodiversity. Moreover, waste disposal in deep trenches still tempts certain industries seeking to hide pollutants away from populous coastlines. Religious teachings across diverse traditions, Buddhism, Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, and others, have repeatedly emphasized stewardship and respect for creation, underscoring a moral duty to avoid irreparable harm to the environment. Philosophers from Aristotle to Aldo Leopold have likewise advocated for a balanced approach that recognizes humans as part of, not above the broader ecological matrix. Yet the ocean's mysteries exemplified by Challenger Deep also inspire an optimism that goes beyond the disheartening narratives of pollution and tragedy. Each new submersible mission or scientific breakthrough can be seen as a pilgrimage of sorts, a reverent entering of a sanctum older than any terrestrial temple. Data gleaned from the deep has enriched our understanding of geological processes, plate tectonics, and the potential origins of life. Investigating extremophile organisms might one day pave the way for breakthroughs in biotech, or unravel the puzzle of how life could exist on other celestial bodies like Europa or Enceladus. Balancing exploitation with conservation demands robust policy frameworks and international cooperation challenges that reflect the ocean's boundary-crossing nature. Countries share seas, but who is responsible for the trenches lying beyond national jurisdictions? In the swirl of these questions, science, spirituality, and global ethics converge, compelling us to adopt a more mature stance on how we engage with Earth's final frontiers. Reflecting on the ocean as a metaphor for the human condition. Throughout history, many thinkers from Confucius in ancient China to Søren Kierkegaard in 19th century Denmark have utilized water as a symbol of life's fluidity and unpredictability. The ocean, with its boundless horizons and unfathomable depths, represents our aspirations, anxieties, and the intangible realms of the spirit. From the vantage point of religious mystics, the ocean might be a living tapestry, woven by divine hands, simultaneously revealing and concealing the wonders of creation. Existentialist philosophers see in it an image of the human condition, each individual drifting on an uncertain sea, searching for meaning in a cosmos that can be at once nurturing and terrifying. When we encounter real-life enigmas, the swirling vortexes, sunken cities, bizarre organisms, and unexplained vanishings, they resonate with our innate recognition that not all can be controlled or understood. As we weigh these reflections against the scientific insights gleaned from submersibles or satellite mapping, we find no single vantage, spiritual, philosophical, or empirical, can alone capture the ocean's essence. Indeed, each perspective enriches the tapestry. Religious frameworks may lend moral significance to our stewardship of the seas, while scientific approaches methodically peel back layers of ignorance. Philosophical discourse prompts us to question the deeper meaning behind every new revelation. If the ocean is an arena where the known and unknown coexist, then each discovery is both an answer and an invitation to delve further. Viewed in this light, the watery realm becomes a mirror for the human quest. We push onward, enthralled and sometimes terrified, because the quest itself defines us. Whether it's ice circles in Baikal pointing to cosmic or geological anomalies, or the ghostly hush of Challenger Deep, We keep searching for truths that lie beyond the next wave, the next dive, or the next newly heard sound from the abyss, the unfinished voyage. Now, having traversed these myriad stories from tropical brine pools and rumored underwater alien bases to the freezing isolation of subglacial lakes and the crushing silence of Challenger Deep, we arrive at the ultimate realization that the ocean's book is still being written. The unsolved puzzles gathered here are but chapters in a continuously evolving narrative shaped by new technologies, changing climates, and shifting cultural perspectives. No matter how far science advances, there may always be phenomena that elude definitive explanation. This recognition does not undermine scientific endeavor. On the contrary, it revitalizes the drive to investigate, reminding us that each discovery can yield further questions. In this sense, the ocean fosters an ongoing conversation that spans generations, bridging the wisdom of ancient maritime folklore with the calculations of modern oceanographers and the introspections of spiritual seekers. For readers who have followed this journey, the invitation stands open. Continue exploring, whether through documentary footage, academic research, or personal reflection. Comment on these enigmas. Speculate on the formation of Lake Baikal's ice circles. Debate the possible existence of lost civilizations off Cuba, or marvel at the notion that an undersea realm might harbor new species bearing no resemblance to known life forms. Stay mindful, too, of the stewardship implications. The ocean is not merely a canvas for our curiosity. It is a living system integral to our survival. As philosophies and religious traditions so often remind us, we inherit a sacred responsibility to uphold creation's balance. And so our final word is both caution and encouragement. Respect the sea's power. Cherish its secrets and embrace the humility that comes with acknowledging our limited grasp of its full depth. In doing so, we further the timeless tradition of watchers at the shore, those who stand transfixed by the waves, compelled to wade ever deeper in search of the boundless truths hidden beneath them.